Citizens of Chicago were sitting down to watch the news on the night of Sunday, the 22nd of November, 1987, expecting to watch the regular segments on crazy Floridian antics and gun violence. During the sports segment, the sportscaster was giving an update on the Bears vs. Lions game. And then, all of a sudden, they weren't, as screens across the city went black. 15 seconds later, a latex mask-clad face was splashed across the screen, maniacally swaying back and forth. 17 seconds later, the screen went black again and the news returned. What had just happened was a signal hijack and the beginning of a mystery that persists to this day. This week on Cheeky Tales, we cover the Max Headroom incident. It's your nightly news. Oh, no, wait. It's a creepy man.
It's a very creepy man.
Do you know this one, boy?
I'm pretty sure another mystery podcast that we listen to on and off have done it, and I think I've heard it.
Yes. Yeah, you would have heard it from that one.
Yeah.
Do you know of it, Sean?
I've heard of it. Yeah, that's why I was happily nodding like a psychopathic child's toy.
Be excited about his episode.
I was excited about the episode. I just don't like yacht racing. The episode was wonderful, John. Just not yacht racing. Sorry, children.
It's been 2 weeks. I'm still salty.
Sean is, of
salty
course,
like seawater.
Sean is, of course, referring to the last episode on the America's Cup victory by Australia in 1983.
And my utter disdain towards the
1987?
To the rich.
1983. 87 was when Max Connor,
Max Power.
Dennis Connor, sorry, regained it for Australia using the San Diego Yacht Club.
Regained it for America.
Yep.
Yes. Sean was listening, I swear.
I was. See, I remember facts and I haven't even got it in front of me.
Facts that were wrong.
So this episode...
I got his first name wrong.
You said Dennis Connor regained it for Australia.
Dennis
for
Lilly
America.
regained
You
it
said
for
Australia.
Croatia.
It's on the recording. Go to the recording.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Do it.
No.
Can you hear me? You've turned me down a lot.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, because you both started screaming.
Yeah, because you brought up a contentious topic.
Also, we do sound quiet compared to him because he's got that overbearing microphone now.
Overbearing,
right up in here now.
Perfect.
He's meant to be the quiet one.
Yeah, well, get me a pop filter one. Give me a better one.
Yeah, I forgot to get the sock this week. So this episode, we talked a lot.
I didn't enjoy the sock era.
He used to put a sock over the microphone.
The birdcage sock era was my favorite and also my least favorite.
The crusty sock era.
And it's not that it smelt bad, but
it just smelled like a sock.
Yeah, but it smelled like your washing detergent. I like my washing detergent. It's like going to someone else's house and their dinner smells weird, even if it's the same dinner.
Was your washing detergent like too rich, like made from a rich company?
No, it was very pungently strong.
It's I use Omo Ultimate. I'm very out of touch with the common man.
Sounds like it.
Cold power.
Probably Sean's using like home brand or something.
I am using Earth Choice, like basically home brand.
That stuff sucks, dude.
No, it doesn't. It's excellent.
Earth brand stuff is terrible.
Nah, it's fine. It cleans my clothes sufficiently.
If you can drink it, you shouldn't be using to clean.
That doesn't say much because of the amount of things that I've drunk in my life that shouldn't have been drunk.
Sean's been chugging laundry detergent. That's what we just learnt.
What is happening? Last episode we're talking about sports. And this episode we're talking about detergent.
Yeah, I drank a 600ml bottle of floodwater in the Townsville floods in 2019.
Why?
From the car park of the Townsville RSL.
Why?
$20. But there was a caveat. I was allowed to put whatever I wanted in it. So I put the sugar-free high-energy sport drink powder that I got in a ration pack in there.
Oh, so you just feed the yeast infection.
Yes.
So, speaking of sports, this episode is roughly a week and a half after the Brisbane Grand Final extravaganza.
I'm so glad we insert win or loss here.
Yeah, so there's 4 possible outcomes.
What a game.
I would like to name it Brisbane's longest weekend.
Yeah. Oh, boy, is it going to be a long weekend.
It's already a long weekend and 2 holidays.
And I'm away.
And you are
Oh,
away.
you're not even here for it.
I'm at the Gold Coast playing in
Wow.
in a Australian Champs cricket competition.
So there's 4 possible outcomes. So I think we should just do each of them, and then
Okay.
I will put them in. Depending on what happens,
All right,
I'll
start.
edit it in. Okay.
Good old Collingwood forever. They know how to play the game. Woo, woo. All right.
So
That's
that
one.
covers 2 of the outcomes. Both the Lions and the Broncos lost, in which case, I can't believe it.
I mean, it was a good final. The boys played well. Proud of where they've come after, wooden spooning 3 years ago for
Yeah,
the
that's
Broncos.
right. And the Lions, they were bad for a long time.
But they've had a good
They've
run.
got a young squad. They'll
Yeah.
come back.
They'll learn.
So I'll cut one of them in.
My singing stays in 2 of the eventualities.
Just get ready to do a live one. Little bit.
Little bit.
There you go.
There needs to be a third saying of little bit.
Would you like us to add you in?
Yeah.
John's a hard no.
Yeah, it's like at the start. It's like, welcome, boy. I'm like, oh, what am I, can of spam? Just, boys.
Well, maybe if you showed up for the last 4 episodes. Oh!
You know, we did have a brief discussion about going back to that sunglasses brand that we don't want you to buy any of. We did have a brief discussion about whether you would have to pay. We were like, Sean going to go in on it?
Doing them on days when I can't be there is hard for me.
It's true. It's all good. You're back. You've had 2 episodes in a row.
We won't see you for another 6 months.
Oh, classic.
All right. I forgot what we're doing. All right.
Yeah, we've
Max-
been blabbing on so long, my laptop's gone to sleep.
Yeah,
Max-
mine did too.
What was it? Max Headroom?
Max Headroom.
Yeah, Max
The Max
Headroom.
Headroom incident of Chicago 1987. Sound familiar?
Yeah, that was when Dennis Connor. Now, I can't remember.
Connor.
Dennis Connor
Dennis Connor
won it back.
won it back.
You barely remember your own story.
No, I was going to say revenge.
like 20
but
minutes
wasn't
ago.
really revenge.
Anyway, let's get into it.
Cool. Tell us what happened. I mean, you already have. So thanks for listening.
Well, I've told you one thing.
Oh, okay. There's more.
Who is Max Headroom anyway?
Interrupt this program, boy. Tell us what's going on.
Oh, good one. That's a good one. So, the mask from the intro wasn't just some random design. No, it was a character that was well known at the time, known as Max Headroom. He was a British TV character, known as the world's first computer-generated TV host. He was designed to look computer-generated, with slicked back blonde hair, waxy skin, and a smart black suit and tie combination.
So, like Data from Star Trek?
Yeah, but in a suit
Okay.
and blonde.
Oh, no. Data was.
He was a, say it with me, I can't remember the word for black hair.
Slick black hair.
I was going to say brunette.
Oh,
but like,
brunette.
that's not black
No,
hair.
it's just black hair.
The character would always appear in front of a geometric pattern that would twist and move throughout his performance. He was actually created and played by a comedian known as Matt Frewer and was well loved by those who knew him for his sharp wit and his dark cyberpunk parodies on technology and media. Eventually, the character would outgrow the comedian's initial reach, making it onto late-night talk shows, an ad campaign for New Coke, and its own hour-long series on America's ABC.
New Coke.
Yeah, there
New
was
Coke.
That'd be a good episode. The Cola Wars would be a ripper. That's a 2-parter.
Yeah.
That's a 2-part. That's a really long one.
All right, well, hold it.
To explain New Coke, if you've seen the Futurama episode with Slurm,
Yep.
where they go to the Slurm factory and they talk about New Slurm,
And how
that's
it
talking about New Coke.
and how it's going to be bad, and then they'll bring out Slurm Classic and everybody will love it. That's basically New Coke. They changed it, everybody hated it, then they brought it back and said Coke's back. Yay. And then they
Yeah, I think
won.
I do know that. Yeah. Is
That's right.
that when they took the cocaine out of it?
No.
No.
That happened a long time ago. There wasn't really ever Coke.
I know.
So-
It's a joke. Whoosh.
So Max
Fact checker. It's my job. It's my actual job title.
as we always say, we're just as factual as Fox News. Yeah, get dunked.
Get dunked.
So, the Max Headroom show had premiered earlier that year, but had been cancelled due to its inability to compete with Miami Vice. Which,
Yeah. Popular TV show.
yes. So, the intrusions themselves. As I said in the introduction, the first intrusion took place during the sports segment of the 9 o'clock news on WGN TV. At around 9:14 p.m., sportscaster Dan Roan was running through a game recap of the Chicago Bears giving the Detroit Lions the business. And just as he described a sack by the Bears against the Lions, the screen went black for 15 seconds. Yes, that was a reference for you. Giving them the business.
Did they give them the business?
No.
Then why did you use that quote?
Because they beat them.
That's not what given the business means.
I know. We're going to have to fill you in on this, boy. There is a college football referee in was it the 90s?
Yeah.
Or the early 2000s.
Yeah.
He gives a penalty and he goes up to the penalty and he's like, penalty for unnecessary roughness. They were giving him the business.
Ron Cherry, it was.
Speaking of that, did you see it might have been last week?
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
I mean, why would you enjoy college football? It's only the rich colleges that can play it anyway.
Here we go.
That's not correct.
Yeah, it's also wildly inaccurate.
Wildly inaccurate. Giving him the business means hitting him in the nuts.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
I think it was.
I'm sad that none of us gave it
beans.
nice after he said number 69.
Nice.
I would, but I've watched that video probably 24 times.
He was giving him the business.
I don't know if it was last week or this week, but it was another NFL referee. And he's given a penalty, and then one of the players comes up behind him and says something, and he goes, "Excuse me, I'm talking to America here."
Yeah, that was last week.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
What a loser. Anyway, so he was describing the sack.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the screen went blank for 15 seconds.
For people who don't know NFL, what's a sack?
So sack is when the defense tackles the quarterback while he still has possession of the ball.
Behind the line of scrimmage.
And is not in the act of running.
Thank you.
Or rushing.
Behind the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
Just has to be behind the line of scrimmage.
True, because it can be out of the pocket.
Yeah, he could be moving. If he's behind the line of scrimmage, it's a sack.
Now we're getting into NFL chat.
It doesn't need to be technical, just a simple explanation for the listeners.
Fact check.
Suddenly, the screen came back to life with a man in a brown suit wearing black sunglasses over a rubber mask with slick back blonde hair standing in front of a rotating piece of corrugated steel. It was a creepy, dystopian version of Mac's Headroom. An unsettling, staticky, garbled sound would... Oh, I burped halfway through that sentence.
Staticky.
It was not a good idea to drink SARS and do this podcast. An unsettling, staticky, garbled sound would play over the top as Max would lean forwards and back, side to side. I'm sorry, everyone, in a comedically menacing way. I'll play the audio now on the podcast, but I encourage you to watch it like we will be to get the feel. It will be in the link dump.
McMahon and McKinnon, 14-0 Bears. Then the defense, which hadn't put up a sack in 12 quarters, finally did. Well, if you're wondering what's happened, so am I. Actually, the computer that we have running our news from time to time took off and went wild. So what we're going to do is start over from the top of the Bears and tell you once again about the 30-10 victory they had over Detroit today out at Soldier Field.
Yeah, that would be alarming. That was not a pleasant sound.
No, quite gross, hey?
Yeah.
Like it just sounds awful. So, as you would have just heard if you did listen to it, which you should have because it's in the episode, after about 20 seconds, the signal would abruptly switch back to Dan Roan, who, as you heard, would try to play off the incident as a computer bug before starting his piece on the Bears-Lions game again. The technicians at WGN-TV had managed to switch the broadcast frequency they used between their studio and the transmitter, circumventing the intrusion and bringing control back to themselves. Those at home would be confused, with some calling the station to ask what had happened, but largely they would go on about their night, finishing the news and moving on to watch other things.
So that's a thing that doesn't happen anymore, really, is it? If something like was to happen now, like that, no one's calling the station.
No one's going to see it because who's watching broadcast TV?
That's true. But no one's calling the station. You're just Googling. You go, like, did anyone see that? Or Facebook? And then,
I wouldn't even know how to call the station.
Yeah, true.
Like, that was a thing they used to just do, was broadcast a phone number to just call the radio station or the TV station. Yeah. Very odd. What?
Nothing. John's looking at me while I'm reading. I always get
Well,
nervous
he's stroking his mustache.
Oh yeah, I always get nervous that I've engrossed myself in reading and missed a joke because then John will look at me like,
Laugh, damn it, laugh.
yeah, laugh. I am the laugh. I am the laugh track.
Next time I see him doing that, I'm just going to start laughing and watch him panic.
And then look over at him quickly. As the night crept on over on Classic. I wonder if that's one of those ones that they recorded in like the 50s and all those people are dead.
Oh, jeez, that's dark.
That's a bit
Going
long.
on way too long.
Okay, as the night crept on over on WTTW, they were playing an episode of Doctor Who, The Horror of Fang Rock. That's apparently quite a popular episode.
Yep,
So,
I've seen it.
Sean.
It's my new soundboard.
Yeah, apparently it's quite a popular episode, so I'm sure some Whovians are all excited right now.
Oh, don't.
I was a Whovian for a brief period.
Every episode's a popular episode. When do you ever hear anyone say, "Oh, that's a bad episode"? Doctor Who fans are just like,
boring episode.
every episode is better than any other television show.
What I liked about Doctor Who
Yes.
is that you can tell it's low budget,
Yes,
but they do things very well.
yes.
Like out of the minimal episodes I've seen, my favorite was the Angels.
Okay,
Very low budget idea, executed extremely well.
I would really like to watch Doctor Who. I've never seen a single episode. I know roughly about it.
Like I said, I watched maybe 10 episodes, was really engrossed for those 10 episodes, and then never went back to it.
There's a guy at work who's a huge fan.
Yeah.
I don't ask anything about it.
I don't love science fiction. There's only one sci-fi show I ever liked, and
X-Files.
no, Quantum Leap.
Mm.
But it's a time travel show.
I know
time
Quantum
travel.
Leap.
Yeah, you know I love time travel.
They're
so-
bringing it back.
Yeah, I heard about that. You can't. That for those out there that haven't seen Quantum Leap, spoilers, but they didn't end the show correctly. They ran out of interest in the show and money, and so Dr. Sam Beckett, he never made it home. They did an episode where there was a redemption arc for another character in the show, and that caused a bit of a paradox to happen that the main character lost his sidekick. Therefore, they just cut to a blank screen and it says Dr. Sam Beckett continued to jump through time helping people in need. He never made it home. That's it. After 5 seasons.
Wow.
It was a heartbreakingly sad final episode, and that was how they ended it.
Mm.
Back to Doctor Who, though. I'm sure you've seen the clip where they bring Van Gogh into the present.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Oh, I thought you would have seen that one since you're such
No.
a huge Van Gogh fan.
A huge.
Look, I'm probably
Whovian.
not as big a fan of Van Gogh as I am of the Brisbane Lions.
Oh, okay.
So, I might not actually be a fan anymore. Don't worry.
Relative.
So, Fang Rock.
Horror of Fang Rock.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was playing, and at around 11:15 p.m. on WTTW, the episode was going along nicely before suddenly cutting to black. And on screen again on this new channel was, oh my God, I should not have had that drink. Oh, sorry, everyone. Whew. And on screen again on this new channel was the grinning face of Max Headroom. This time he had audio, though really terrible quality. He also made some interesting content choices. This signal jacking would be much longer, at around 1 minute 22 seconds, largely because there was nobody on site at the transmission tower for WTTW. We're going to watch the second one now, and I'll play the audio again. So have a listen. Go to the link dump if you have not already, and have a look at both of these.
You should talk often with the old ones of your tribe. That is the only way to learn.
I'll get you a hot drink, miss.
I've seen some dry clothing.
far as I can tell, a massive electric shock. He died instantly.
What the hell?
Yeah. So that one was a bit weirder, huh?
You're a little bit weirder. Like, it's creepy.
Did you pick up on anything he said, either of you? Aside from the fact that you could see some captions there.
Yeah, something like I can see the X or...
Yep.
It's hard because I've been fact checking. I was already listening for what he's supposed to have said.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually hear some things that it says that he said. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
Swersey?
Yeah,
He
he
was
talks about
the-
Chuck Squersky.
Yeah, he was the he wasn't the guy reading the news earlier.
No.
I think he was another sportscaster.
He's another sportscaster. Yeah.
It's really disturbing.
Yeah. So I've got a transcript of what he said. So when he first cut in, he says, because he's a freaking nerd, yeah, I think I'm better than Chuck Swirsky. Freaking liberal, oh Jesus. Then when he's holding up the can, he says, catch the wave. Then he's singing Your Love Is Fading. Then he says, I still see the X. Then he does a bit where he's like faking pooing. And he's like, oh, my piles, which are hemorrhoids.
Hemorrhoids. Yeah.
And then he goes, oh, I just made a giant masterpiece for all the greatest world newspaper nerds. Greatest world newspaper being GWN, the first station that he'd taken over.
WGN. World's greatest news. He said greatest world newspaper nerds, but the station is world's greatest newspaper. Sorry.
Then he said, my brother is wearing the other one, but it's dirty. Oh no, they're coming to get me. And then the female character that you saw with the fly spotter spanking him on the bum bum, she says, bend over, bitch. And then he says, make it stop. And that's when it cuts.
I'm disturbed. I'm creeped out.
Yeah, it's a bit off-putting, isn't it?
I'm really creeped out. This is weird. Like, it just seems like, obviously the first one was like a test.
Yeah.
Like just to see if they could do it.
Mm.
And then the second one is like, okay, we can do it. And then kind of refining, I guess, their signal or something like that. It's just.
So the thing that's weird is that he
I'm
makes that
really
reference.
Creeped out.
Yeah, it's really off-putting, isn't
It's
it?
really creepy.
Mm. Definitely go watch it if you haven't. So
I
that you
don't want to
understand
drive
what we're
home by
saying.
myself.
Oh, okay. So there's a little bit of context there, which is that Chuck Swirsky was the broadcaster, was a sportscaster on WGN. It's suspected that these people had wanted to interrupt his broadcast, but did it on the wrong night and the wrong station. So they did WGN first, and then they went to WTTW. But it's probable that it was meant to be on WGN.
So are these interruptions pre-recorded and they're hijacking the signal with pre-recorded things? So it's not like a live feed.
That's the theory. Because I don't know if you noticed, but there was a jump cut.
Yeah, there was a jump cut. Yeah.
Chuck Swirsky was a radio announcer. He wasn't on television. They weren't trying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Chuck Swirsky is an American-Canadian radio sports announcer, and he is the play-by-play voice of the Chicago Bulls.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I read that he was at WGN.
Nope.
Oh, well, all right.
He was on
Thanks for
WCF.
fact-checking that.
He was on WCFL AM 1000
Sorry,
talk show.
WTF.
WCFL AM.
Fact checker.
Doing it good. So when he holds up the Pepsi can and Max says, catch the wave, that's catch the wave was the slogan for Coke, who Max Headroom had the advertising campaign with.
Swirsky occasionally filled in as the sports anchor on WGN.
There we go.
He occasionally was on there.
That's why.
And he's an evangelical Christian.
Vindication! Yeah, there's the bit about having piles.
Mm-hmm.
And then the giant masterpiece for all the greatest world newspaper nerds. So that's why they think it was probably meant to be on WGN.
Mm-hmm.
But they had already beaten them by changing their signal.
Yep.
So yeah, you're right. It does seem like they were trying to do like a test one, and then, or they had intended to do a longer one and they got beaten. And so then they adjusted to go after another station that they could get to.
Yeah, and it kind of cut back in halfway through.
Yeah, on a different station.
Yep.
Yeah. And just as quick as it had begun, it was over. WTTW never regained control of their broadcast from Max. Rather, the signal jackers just ended the broadcast and allowed WTTW to take over their transmission again.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's because there was nobody at the transmission tower,
Yeah.
so they couldn't change the signal it was receiving. So they just had to wait and let it go. In the words of the air director for WTTW, Paul Rizzo, we attempted to take corrective measures, but couldn't. As the content got weirder, we got increasingly stressed out about our inability to do anything about it. The pirate broadcast ended when the hijackers unilaterally ended their transmission. By the time our people began looking into what was going on, it was over. As you can imagine, WTTW also got flooded with phone calls from viewers who had no idea what had just happened, and there were probably some complaining that WTTW dare broadcast such filth, as if they had anything to do with it.
Mm.
The next day, media outlets picked up on the story and ran with it, with articles describing the hijacking, talking about the obscene version of Max Headroom that had been broadcast, and speculating on how the hijackers had done it. And on that note, let's get to the investigation into why, who, and how of the Max Headroom incident. What do you think? What do you think so far? How do you think they did it?
I'm just still creeped out. Like, I don't know if the spinning corrugated iron has done something like a hypnotized, but it's just like, that's all I can see now is like, and the way the was moving, that rocking.
Yeah, that
just,
like creepy rock back and forth, and the head's like slightly too big.
Yeah,
and the little bum.
It's done me.
Yeah. Really?
I'm rocked.
John's shattered.
Absolutely shattered.
Oh, well, if you want a horror experience, watch it at night.
I did. How have they done it? Obviously, they've been able to interrupt like the signal frequency, block it with like the opposite frequency, and then send their own or something like that.
All right.
I don't know. I'm not a
good theory
signal technician.
As soon as the first intrusion had started, there was an investigation underway inside WGN TV. They started by sweeping their building, believing the signal jacker must be inside the studio. A thorough search would find nothing, and as they discovered that switching the broadcast frequency broke the hack, it would become clear that the method used was overpowering the legitimate signal broadcast to the transmitter. While fairly simple in practice, and the equipment fairly cheap, it would require a decent knowledge of the technology. It would also mean that more than likely the signal jackers would have had line of sight to the tower used to transmit, which meant the jackers were most likely in the Chicago metro area. The FBI and FCC would immediately start investigating the case, and considering what was known, would be focusing on local hacker groups. The next day, the FCC would release a statement through spokesman Phil Bradford in an attempt to stop copycat signal jackings. They would state, "I would like to inform anybody involved in this kind of thing that there's a maximum penalty of $100,000, 1 year in jail, or both." So it's not a laughing matter for the FCC.
But just the way it's like, or both.
Or both. Yeah. So as despite the relatively innocuous content that Max Headroom put out during the two intrusions, it could have been a lot worse. It had, in fact, only recently been made a felony to hijack a broadcast signal, as only 1 year earlier, on April 27, 1986, another hijacking had been done by a man named John McDougall on HBO. He had hijacked the satellite signal to broadcast a text protest against the cost of cable TV. In this instance,
fair enough.
Similar to the second Max Headroom broadcast, it was McDougall himself who had ended the hijacking. He was caught through his use of the specific character generator used to generate the on-screen dialogue, and he handed himself in and gave his motives, which were that he was pissy that he couldn't sell satellite TV equipment for people to steal free satellite TV anymore after the broadcasters introduced scramblers on their signal. After this, it was clear that signal hijacking could be a real problem, and so the Electronic Communications Privacy Act of 1986 was rolled out to make the act a crime. So what this John McDougall guy had done is, in the 80s, when they started using satellite broadcasts, you could just buy satellite equipment, point it at the satellite
Oh, yeah.
and take the signal and immediately have free TV.
Yep.
And so all these stations, like there was an industry in doing this, like companies that would sell this equipment, support it in your house, and you wouldn't have to pay the cable companies. So they started using the scramblers, and he went,
I think there was a Simpsons episode about stealing cable.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then he does this, and he took over the satellite by just,
Shooting a beam at it.
yeah. And the company that ran the satellite, like operated it, they couldn't do anything about it because the only way to beat it was to put a more powerful signal, and that had the potential to destroy the satellite. So they just had to wait for him to give up. And so that's why the government were like, ooh, not only could they broadcast whatever they want, they could also damage equipment that these companies own that could be important for like, you know, a number of things. So maybe we'll make that illegal. And so they did that within a year.
It's just funny that wasn't illegal
Yeah, it was-
before that point.
Yeah. Well, they did charge him with something, but the specifics of what
Piracy.
he'd done wasn't. Yeah.
Signal piracy.
There were a number of other signal jackings done despite the new laws, including another infamous one that took over the Playboy channel
Ooh.
to display a text message encouraging those watching to repent their sins and turn to
course.
the Lord. This man, again, was caught quite quickly and was found to be an employee of the Christian Broadcasting Network. Despite the fact that there were so many jackings going on, Max Headroom stood out above the
Signal
others.
warfare
Yeah.
between Playboy and the Christian Broadcasting Network, the CBN.
The CBN coming after the Playboy network. So Max Headroom stood out above the others because he managed to transmit video and audio, something that was rare, if not ever seen before.
Oh, the other ones were just text.
Yeah, they were just text messages put
Yeah.
up on screen. This did, though, give more evidence for the investigators to go through. First, investigators would look to try and find the physical location that the signal jackers had used to initiate the jacking. WGN-TV used the John Hancock building, and WTTW used the Sears Tower.
So they'd need line of sight of both buildings.
That's right. This meant that the signal jacker needed to be near both buildings and probably at a pretty high height.
Mind you, the Sears Tower is the tallest building in Chicago.
Yeah.
So you can see it from a lot of places,
Yeah.
but you've got to be able to see both.
Both. Yeah.
So you can't be on the ground.
It's now called the Willis Tower, but no one calls it that. If you ask someone in Chicago where the Willis Tower is, they're going to go, you mean the Sears Tower, even though it's called the Willis Tower. Can confirm.
Yeah, that's like a lot of things.
Yep.
It could be like, we got a local one, the Maya Center. I don't
Yep.
think it's called the Maya Center anymore, but it's always
No.
going to be.
It's always going to be the
Maya
Maya Center. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, whoever goes in there next. It's not your building.
Oh, it's already got a different name.
Yeah, isn't it like Brisbane Arcade? No, it's
Well, since you're a Lions fan, what's the name of the Gabba?
the Hyundai Centre, isn't it?
No one calls it that.
Yeah. Or actually, isn't it it's like the Hyundai or something because a couple
Hang
of
on,
the
what?
letters are off.
Yeah, the Gabba officially is the Hyundai Center, but no one calls it that.
Since when?
Since
For ages,
15,
boy.
20 years.
So long that some of the letters on the Hyundai Centre sign have gone out. And I do know that because I'm a massive Lions fan.
I didn't know it. It's just always been the Gabba.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they don't even call it that for the cricket. I
They
think
call
the
it-
only time it's called the Hyundai Centre is for the Lions games.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
don't call it that. I've never heard them ever call it that. They call it the
Yeah.
Gabba.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Hmm.
Lang Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, Suncorp.
Yeah, but it's
It's
known
Lang
as
Park.
Suncorp. Yeah.
But it's Lang Park. Yeah.
Imagine the day when Suncorp don't sponsor that. It's not going to be whatever. It's going to be Suncorp.
Mm.
Yeah.
Etihad Stadium. I have never once remembered to call it Marvel Stadium.
Oh, yeah,
It was
it's
Etihad
Etihad.
Stadium or
Yeah.
Dockland Stadium.
Is that the same stadium?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Marvel Stadium.
Did not realise that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I've recently been to Melbourne. I have seen Marvel Stadium.
Yep.
And I didn't realise it was one and the
It's
same.
the same one, yeah.
Okay.
It was called Dockland Stadium for 25 years, and then it was roughly.
Yeah, because it's
and
near
then-
the docks, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
There's a number of them like
I'm
that.
a Melbourneite now. Not.
You've been there once.
Yeah, I've been there once. I'm going to Adelaide next week, Sean.
Oh, beautiful. How long for?
3 or 4 days. Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it later.
First.
Restarting Sean's mediocre travel advice, but in podcast form. Welcome to Sean's mediocre travel advice. Doom, doom, boom, boom,
If you go to Adelaide, go to the beach. Doom, doom, doom. Adelaide has a nice place in the hills called Harndorf.
Are you?
Doom, doom, doom.
It was a Snapchat series I did
I was
for
going to
a
say,
while.
are you a train conductor?
Yeah, so I had
Dun, dun. The next stop is Radelaide.
I did this. I did this Snapchat thing for a while called Sean's Mediocre Travel Advice. It started when I went to Captain Cook's landing point in Sydney, and it was the most underwhelming, boring thing I'd ever seen. And so I did this thing like, yep, come to Captain Cook's landing point. There's a tree.
Didn't we stay there?
No, there's
Not
nothing
the
there.
rocks.
No, that's not where he landed.
Oh.
In Botany Bay, there's like this just
Right, of course.
plaque on the side of the water and a tree.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's another episode of Sean's Mediocre Travel Advice. And then I kept it going. I did an episode where I went and watched the sunrise. And it was mediocre because it's something that happens every single day, no matter what.
I feel like I did something similar when I was in Melbourne, boy. I was sending Aaron pictures of like the solar system, the scaled solar system landing there. I'm like, I'm at the sun. I'm at Venus.
And I could tell how long it was taking him because I'd get them at like various intervals.
Because it gets a long distance. I think
Yeah.
I got to Mars and went, oh, I'm not going any
Yeah,
further.
because Mars is like a couple hundred meters down the road. Yeah.
And then Jupiter's like almost a K away. I'm like, oh, I'm not going any
I'm not
further.
going any
Yeah.
further.
I think Pluto is like, I think it's like 13 Ks or something.
5.6 Ks from the sun.
Yeah.
No, it has to be further than that.
Yeah, I think it's 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, first,
Sorry.
back to the story. First, investigators would look to try and find the physical location, as I said. So you've got the Willis Tower and the Sears Tower. So that meant the signal jackers needed to be near both buildings and probably at a pretty high height, likely in a high-rise apartment on a rooftop on the north side of Chicago.
You know, Sean,
Mhm.
just move on.
What?
Nothing.
What?
Continue.
Are you saying because I've already said all this?
Nope.
What?
Continue.
Just go.
No, come on.
No, just go.
No, continue.
What?
This is not Austin Powers. You don't ask us 3 times and we tell you. Just
What
keep
is it?
going. The moment has passed.
Is it
I'm
because I
right
keep
though,
saying
right?
jacking?
No, Sears and Willis Tower thing.
Yeah, I'm right for looking at you for that?
Yeah, you are, yeah.
Okay.
They would also look to find where the video had been filmed. Due to the jump cuts in the transmission,
That'd be tough to do, wouldn't it?
you would think so,
There's
yeah.
not that much evidence.
Yeah. I'll get to that after
Sorry.
I finish this.
Sorry.
It was due to the jump cut, it was determined that the video must have been filmed prior to the signal jacking and could not have been completed live. This meant that the location didn't need to be set up to transmit and could be in use at the time of the broadcast. The background of the video, the corrugated metal, was determined to be 8 feet wide.
Mm.
Yeah.
I said, it looked like there was a reflection in it off to over Max's left shoulder. It looked like there was another person in the reflection of the corrugated island.
Well, there was someone else there.
Yeah, of course.
You saw them spanking his bum.
Yeah.
So they determined somehow that corrugated metal was 8 feet wide, industrial in nature, and possibly a roll-down warehouse door. Somehow the FBI would come up with a suspect who worked in a warehouse that they believed could have been used for filming. But that doesn't really make much sense because the door is spinning.
That is literally the least important thing they could focus on
Yeah.
to try and catch him.
It's about the only thing they had to go on, though, other than he had a white bum. So
Specific.
He had white
must be
hands.
Caucasian.
The specific rubber mask, how many of them were made?
Yeah.
Where were they produced? Who sold them?
None of that information got shared.
Now they went with the corrugated iron.
As it turns out, yeah,
Innocuous
it
is
was
the word I'm
pretty
looking
shaky, and they never formally investigated the suspect. So they went, "This is our suspect." Oh, we actually don't have anything to go on. Okay, we won't bother investigating
Yeah,
them.
fair enough. That's sounds like 1930s detective work.
Get the seance. Most in the industry would believe it to be an inside job. Someone within the industry or the stations themselves. A broadcast engineer by the name of Al Skirkowitz, who worked for WTTW, took part in the investigation on the night of the incident with the union, maintenance staff, and the director of engineering of WTTW. His theory would be it had to be a broadcast engineer, a satellite engineer, or a ham radio operator, and probably a combination of at least 2 of those in order to pull this off. Others with knowledge, though, disagreed, or at least those who claimed knowledge. On the Chicago online bulletin board system, a user named The Chameleon would post something that not only disagreed with the inside job theory, but also seemed to take credit in some way. We'll strike again. I can guarantee it. Hardly an inside job. They just aimed their transmitter at the same transponder that WGN uses and used a higher power. It doesn't even have to be significantly higher, just more. And the WGN signal will cancel out. As I said before, it's one of those things that doesn't work out on paper, but it works. Welcome to Earth, where everything you know is wrong. The Chameleon put forward the idea that due to the regular availability of equipment and its ease of use, that it would be fairly easy to hijack signals like Max had done. Others, using the basis that it wasn't that hard to hijack, theorised that the motives for the hijacking could have been that it was an anti-media protest, a disgruntled former employee of the TV stations, or that it was a comment on the character being bastardised for capitalism rather than staying in its lane as a comedic piece. Regardless of the motives, there were a number of suspects that the FBI and FCC investigated, none of which we know about. All the ones we know about come from online forums. So let's get into them.
Yeah, what?
The FBI and FCC never formally investigated anyone.
Oh, okay.
So they never found enough evidence to go on. So the only thing we have to go on is just... That is terrifying when you don't know it's coming.
Aaron looked absolutely...
I was like, what the hell's that?
It's like Max Headroom was about to bust through the door. That's how Aaron looked.
The Chameleon, by the way, the person that kind of made the post that said that they were going to do it again, never comes up again in any post anywhere.
Yeah, right. What a coward.
I know. So, the suspects. Suspect 1 is a performance artist and musician, Eric Fournier. By the way, there's no evidence given by any of these online forums. They just kind of guess these people and then go, it must have been them because this.
Yeah.
So Eric Fournier. He is best known now as a YouTuber who created a channel called Shay St. John from the early days of YouTube.
I've heard of that.
Have you?
Yeah.
It's creepy as hell. Don't go look it up. The content of this channel is pretty creepy and surreal, similar to the Max Headroom videos. He also seemed to have a similar performative vibe, and so sleuths pointed to him as a potential suspect. He lived about an hour or two's drive away from Chicago at the time, in Bloomington, Indiana. And he was in a punk band known as the Blood Farmers.
Oh, what a name. What a band name. Right?
Gross. So the theory goes that he had originally wanted to broadcast a video clip of the band, but decided to do something else instead to not jeopardize them. His former bandmate describes this theory as ridiculous bullshit. Due to Eric's complete lack of video editing skills, the lack of music videos ever being made for the band, and the fact that none of them had the equipment available to do the hijacking.
Or the experience?
No. So this theory is just kind of like, oh, this guy kind of does similar videos.
Yeah.
And he lived an hour away. It was him.
Yeah.
But then the theory of the like wanting to play a music video but then deciding not to, like, well, why would you still do the hijacking?
Yeah, there's no point then.
Yeah. So
the point is to
get exposure.
Yeah, and then
but then you do something that you can never be exposed with.
Yep.
Like, yeah. So the second person is Chicago radio DJ Jonathan Brandmeier, who was branded a suspect by the online sleuths, with the evidence being just that he was hired by WGN, but only briefly, and held a grudge against them due to this.
There's a sitcom idea in that. Online detectives. No training or anything like that.
No training, no evidence. Just
no evidence. Randomly accusing people.
So we went to a seance. And actually, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, copyright Cheeky Tales.
Yeah, that's part of the CTU. Get out of here.
So we expand to a YouTube channel. We're going to make a YouTube sitcom.
Actually, I probably should grab the YouTube channel.
Pick up Sean's mediocre travel advice while you're at it, would you?
Yep. That's our third show. So Jonathan Brandmeier, he was known as a bit of a bad boy on his radio show. A bit edgy. However, in the end...
How edgy?
So edgy. I actually haven't found any of his content, so I've got no idea.
Of course.
Like a winged keel or a traditional keel?
Oh, he's got edges. He's got winged edges.
Damn it.
Oh, cheeky tales.
It's part of the CTU now, Sean.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. Show 4 is going to be our weekly sailing catch-up podcast.
No, I'm going to say the first episode of Sean's Mediocre Travel Advice is the Western
Island.
Australia.
Rhode Island.
No, Western Australia Maritime Museum and go visit the.
hell yeah.
Well, the
Go
wing
visit Australia.
keel.
Go visit Australia too.
You can get a photo like this next to the wing keel. I did a big cheesy grin and pointed my thumb to my left like I was standing to the right of the winged keel.
Did you just?
So
If you would like to sponsor Sean's trip to Western Australia to the Maritime
Yeah, hit
Museum
us
to
up.
visit Australia too,
let's do it.
get in contact.
So instead of Sean's mediocre travel advice, it's Aaron and John sending Sean places he doesn't want to go.
That sounds great.
Sean
And then you
in-
give mediocre travel
Second,
advice.
like that.
second episode, we can send you to Paris to urinate in a open air urinal, public urinal.
Sean, here
it's
it
like
is.
that one of like goths doing ungoth things. It's just Sean in places he doesn't want to be.
We could call here's the name of the show. Sean's mediocre travel advice under duress. And then the tagline would be like, he doesn't want to be there and he's not happy about it.
Nah, it's too long. It just needs to be called Sean against his will.
Come on, listener, hit us up.
This isn't
Fund us.
bad. We could do this.
Yeah, fund us, listener. We'll do it. You're going to make squillions.
Hell yeah, let's do that.
Except we don't have any money to go anywhere, so it's actually just me playing Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, but
It's
out of
Sean.
sequence.
It's Sean standing in front of Aaron's big TV with.
Whoa! This is the shittest green screen.
It's just really, really bad
green
GeoGuessr.
screen, yeah.
It's John's VR headset.
Yes!
And you guys just dropping me in locations I don't want to
And you're
be.
just like, oh,
Oh, great. Actually, wouldn't be too bad.
He's coming around.
let's do it.
Yeah, I'd get around it.
So the only evidence was that he was edgy and a bad boy. However, turns out
He's a bad boy. That's the.
Don't say bad boy.
he wasn't hired by WGN until many years later. So he didn't have any grudge at the time.
Yeah, right.
Mm.
They haven't hired me yet. I'm going to hijack their signal.
Yeah, I'm pissy. The same online sleuths. What?
Is that a Louis Vuitton book sitting over there on the
Yes.
Yeah. I can't believe you didn't notice that
Oh, I
till now.
didn't notice.
The same online sleuths would also point to Al Skirkowitz, the engineer working at WTTW on the night of the hijacking. Skirkowitz continued to work at WTTW for over 40 years, even going on a podcast in 2020 to talk about the impact the hack had on the industry. He would compare the hijacking to someone breaking into your house, and that the engineering team at WTTW took the hijacking personally.
Of course they did. That sounds like something someone guilty would say.
Exactly. What a dog, as if you'd care about your job and your business.
Yeah.
People pointed to the fact that Skirkowitz seemed to be taking a deep interest in the case and that he would certainly have the access and knowledge to do something like this, and that his comments on the incident are a bluff to cover his tracks.
Yep, I agree.
Yep. Put him in jail.
Find that man.
Yeah. The statute of limitations on this passed in 1992.
Oh.
The last suspects.
Reopening the case.
Yep. Cheeky Tales does Max Headroom.
Cheeky Tales. Online detectives.
We're also sending Sean to the Bean. Nah, he likes that.
Oh, I
so,
like it's called Skygate,
Sorry,
Don't
we're sending
call it the
Sean to
Bean.
Skygate.
and I do really like it. Thank you.
No,
it's
that one's
fantastic.
not happening. No.
That one's not happening. We're
No.
sending you to the Statue of Liberty. You're going inside it. You're going to Mount Rushmore.
Oh, I don't want to go to the statue. You can see it for free. I don't.
That's our in. The last suspects come from a Reddit thread in December of 2010, posted by a person called Bowie Pogue.
Yep.
He posted an
23
AMA.
years after it happened.
He posted an AMA with the title, "I believe I know who was behind the Max Headroom incident that occurred on Chicago TV in 1987.
Oh my God.
At the time of the hack, Bowie was a teenager in Chicago and claimed to have known people he considers to be the culprits. Bowie considered himself a bit of a cyberpunk kid and wanted to get to know the people in the Chicago hacking community. He met two brothers who were at least 26 years old, who he called J and K in his thread.
When was this?
This was 2010.
Okay, so we should just watch Men in Black.
Yeah.
Jay was the younger brother and was known as an expert in broadcast engineering, including spectrums and equipment. What he knew in broadcast engineering, he didn't know about social skills, and so his brother Kay would be the more engaging of the two. Kay worked for a telephone company and had a girlfriend known as M in the post. J, K, and M lived together just outside downtown Chicago. Bowie claimed that on the day of the hijacking, he was hanging out with a group of hackers, including J and K, and J started referring to something big that was about to go down. Bowie asked what he meant, and K told Bowie to watch Channel 11 that night. Bowie would say in his post that the Max Headroom incident seemed to match J's humour perfectly, and so he believed that J was the one in the mask that night. Bowie, however, would go on to post later that he and Rick Klein, the curator of the Museum of Classic Chicago Television, very specific museum, had exonerated J and K through evidence they had uncovered. While he wouldn't say exactly what that was, he gave the impression that he and Klein had decided that it was pretty much impossible for the hijackings to have been done by anything other than an inside job. They believed that the technology available to an amateur wasn't advanced enough to hijack the signal. So he does this whole post where he's like,
how it was them.
oh, I think these people did it. And then about a year later, he's like,
nah,
couldn't possibly have been them. They're exonerated. Yeah.
He's just trying to drum up interest in his very specific museum.
Yes. That is what it feels like, isn't
That's
it?
what, yeah.
He's watched Men in Black and gone, characters.
J,
K, M.
So spooky.
It also kind of gave me the like start of Matrix vibes, or like the hackers scene,
Yeah.
like being that cyberpunk. Like, oh, let's go.
I can't believe there was a hacker scene in the 80s.
Oh,
In the end, the
losers that don't
FBI...
have anything better to do, so they think they're hackers.
I'm going to hack the radio.
We're shit at some things, and we make things break. Therefore, we're hackers.
Hacker man.
Oh, man.
In the end, the FBI and FCC never did find a suspect they could even publicly announce. And in 1992, the statute of limitations was passed, and they wouldn't have been able to prosecute anyone for it anyway. The case went cold, and the investigation ended. Max Headroom would go on to be an enduring mystery, finding his way onto shows like ours for years to come. Who and why will possibly never be answered, and with the ability for signal jackers to take over broadcasts now pretty much gone, and basically nobody using broadcast signals anyway, we may never see anything quite like this again. The case is closed. What do you think?
Too spooky.
Too spook.
Good spook.
Heckin' spook. Yeah, it's pretty weird, hey?
Yeah,
Like-
and that was the only two
That was it.
incidents that we had.
That was it.
All 45 seconds of it.
Yep. It was a minute 22 for the second one, and I think it was like 40 seconds for the first one. 20 seconds even. Yeah. Spook. But that's it. That's Max Headroom.
Nice.
Nobody ever caught. Nobody really knows any suspects.
No one taking claim.
No one ever claimed it, except Chameleon kind of did in their post on that
No
forum.
one knows who
but-
that is. Yeah.
Yeah. And that could just be anyone.
Yeah. Well,
That's
it was
it.
me. I did it.
I am Max Headroom.
I'm Max Headroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Put that out there. That'll be how we springboard our YouTube channel to the masses.
When did it happen?
1987.
Yeah.
So you would have been about 13.
months. Yeah.
John being old is a very classic gag in
Shut
our
up.
friendship group.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's very interesting. Good tale
Very good tale.
to extrapolate all that information in fun times. I know how difficult it is to do an unsolved mystery, being that DB Cooper was, 3 episodes ago?
Have you ever heard of DB Tuber?
No.
All right. Keep that in mind for later when I do that one.
Okay. Okay.
Anyway, we have been Cheeky Tales. I'm Aaron. That's
We
John.
have been Cheeky Tales.
We have been the Cheeky Boys on Cheeky Tales.
The just traditional
Not
way
you've
of
been listening to Cheeky Tales. We've been the Cheeky
Hey, you
Boys.
know what? F you. Come up with your goodbye.
I have.
Ta-da.
Ta-ta.
no, just the classic traditional way of introducing yourself at the end of your podcast.
Yeah, that's how I like doing it.
Nice.
So we've been the Cheeky Boys on Cheeky Tales. I'm Aaron,
John?
And Sean.
who is very sour tonight.
Wow, the excitement coming out of Sean.
Sean's had a rough recording session. He hated the first one.
I hate boat racing. It's so boring.
Find us on the
I would
socials.
rather watch you two try to paint each other's nails the fastest than watch boat racing.
Well, maybe that's episode 2 of Sean's mediocre travel advice.
We're coming up with some cracking ideas.
Yeah.
Oh,
Find us on the socials at Cheeky Tales Pod, Facebook, Instagram, and X.
Twitter.
oh. I can forgot about that.
And soon YouTube.
Every week I forget about the Twitter thing.
And soon the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
At
we're
Cheeky Tales
launching
Pod.
our new show.
Sean's mediocre travel advice is going to be very Brisbane specific for a while, just so you're all aware.
I'm down at the Brisbane sign.
Yeah, look, it has to be within one fuel tank of like
I'm at the Norman Park Cemetery.
I'm at the Hyundai Centre.
Yeah, at the Hyundai.
Stay tuned for the next episode in 2 weeks' time. Thanks for
Maybe it'll be
listening.
Super League.
Maybe it'll be Super League. I mean, threatening it for ages.
Yeah, find on the socials the link tree for those if you haven't seen those
Actually,
videos.
the next episode might be,
Halloween.
yeah, and it's yours. Yes.
Nope.
And
Not doing
even
it.
more importantly, we're getting close to December. Means time for Sean's Medley of Madness
That was
2.
the New Year's. That was
I know.
January.
Yeah, we're getting close to it.
I
It's
am kind of
exciting.
excited to do another one. That
Medley
was a fun
of Madness
episode.
2. Say it.
Medley of Madness.
I'm not doing the Halloween episode. Someone else can do it.
I have said I'll do it.
Thanks for listening. We will be in your ear holes next time. Good night,
Oh.
Chiquitos.
Oh, be in your ear.
Open up your ear holes and let us in.
Icky warning.
I'm so
Icky
and,
warning.
And
Good night, Chiquitos.
Ta-ta.